This invitation just went out to 200 people. Billionaire wedding. Pacific Palisades Estate. Saturday at sunset. Everyone will be there. But they're not celebrating a marriage. They're celebrating a murder that almost worked. 3 days ago, I found this baby locked in a wardrobe. His mother, the bride, had been starving him, waiting for him to die, so she could marry his father without anyone knowing her newborn son ever existed. She almost got away with it. I'm Emma. I'm the maid who heard everything, recorded everything, and saved him. And in 48 hours, I'm gonna stand up in the middle of that wedding rehearsal, in front of every guest, every camera, every witness, and I'm gonna play a recording of the bride saying these exact words. Mom, if you have to smother him to keep him quiet, just do it. That's not a movie villain. That's a real woman, talking about her own 3-week-old baby. The baby I'm holding right now. His name is Jacob. He weighs 6 pounds. He should weigh 9. His ribs show through his skin. He's so dehydrated he can barely cry. And his mother? She's upstairs right now trying on her wedding dress. Before we dive in, smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the like button. Drop a comment. Type one word, justice. Because if you believe this woman deserves consequences, say it. Type justice. Now turn your volume up. Every single word matters. And don't click away, because what happens when I walk into that rehearsal with this baby will shatter everything. The night Isabel Monroe walked into Nathan Ashford's mansion, Emma's life changed forever. Emma had worked for the Ashford family since she was 16, raised herself in that house after her parents died. She knew how rich people lied, the smile that never reached the eyes, the rehearsed affection. Nathan looked at Isabel like she'd stepped out of his dreams. Emma looked at her and saw a nightmare in diamonds. Isabel's hand was ice cold when Emma shook it. Her smile perfect, too perfect, like she'd practiced it in a mirror 1,000 times. And her mother, Margaret, who arrived right behind her. Even worse, Margaret's eyes swept that mansion like an appraiser calculating value. She touched the chandelier, ran fingers along the marble, measured every corner with the kind of entitlement that made Emma's stomach turn. From that first night, Emma knew something was wrong. 2 weeks later, everything clicked. Isabel was by the infinity pool in a crimson bikini, arms stretched toward the California sun, completely relaxed for the first time. And that's when Emma saw it. A scar, thin, pink, fresh, running across Isabel's lower belly. Emma's coffee mug slipped, hit the ground, shattered. Isabel's eyes snapped to her. For 1 second, pure panic flashed across that perfect face before she yanked the bikini down, covering the mark. You always stare this much? Isabel's voice dripped poison. Emma's hands went cold. C-section scar. Fresh, maybe 3 weeks old. But there was no pregnancy, no baby, no nursery, nothing. Emma's brain finished the sentence her mouth couldn't. Either Isabel had a dead baby, or a hidden one. And hidden meant alive. Somewhere. Suffering. Over the next 3 days, Emma watched. Isabel refused wine. Made excuses. She winced lifting a coffee pot. Too heavy, she muttered. Coffee pot. Emma's jaw clenched. Then she overheard Margaret on the phone in the kitchen. Voice tight. Her past doesn't concern anyone here. It stays buried. Buried. That word echoed in Emma's mind like a death sentence. Margaret started disappearing every afternoon. Heavy bags. Strange hours. And when she'd return, she smelled like closed rooms and sour milk. Emma knew that smell. She'd cared for infants in that house before. Emma mentioned it carefully to another staff member. The woman's face went pale. Stay away from them, Emma. Please. Nobody warns you about good people. That warning was all the proof Emma needed. Late one night, cleaning near Nathan's office, Emma heard voices through the door. Margaret's harsh whisper cut through. If anyone discovers this, everything we've built collapses. Isabel's response came back cold as a blade. Then we eliminate the risk. Permanently. Eliminate. Not avoid. Not hide. Eliminate. Emma pressed her forehead against that door. Her hands shook. These women weren't just liars. They were dangerous. Christmas lights went up around the estate. Wedding prep moved fast. Nathan looked exhausted, dark circles carved beneath his eyes. One morning, he muttered over coffee, "Something feels off. I just can't figure out what." Emma wanted to scream everything right then, but she had no proof. Not yet. Then Emma found the prescription bottle, left carelessly on the living room sofa. Isabel's name printed right there. Post-surgical ointment. 4 C-section recovery. Issued 3 weeks ago. Emma's heart hammered. The scar. The secrecy. The lies. Isabel had given birth recently. But where was the baby? Emma followed Margaret one afternoon across the estate to a small guest house that hadn't been used in years. The door stood slightly open. Margaret slipped inside carrying a heavy bag, glancing around like a criminal. Minutes later, after Margaret left, Emma crept closer. And inside, she heard something that stopped her heart. A whimper. Soft, faint, weak, like a baby too exhausted to cry. Footsteps approached. Emma ran. But that sound haunted her through every sleepless minute that followed. Emma didn't sleep that night. By sunrise, she knew she was out of time. Margaret's voice drifted down from upstairs. Sharp. "He cried too much last night. We need to handle this before someone hears him. Handle this. Not comfort. Not feed. Handle." Nathan appeared in the kitchen looking destroyed. Hair disheveled. Dark circles like bruises. "Emma, real talk. Does Isabel seem off to you? Or am I losing my mind?" Emma's heart pounded. He was so close to the truth. Sometimes the answers are right in front of us. We just have to look. Nathan stared at her like her words had unlocked something buried deep. Before he could respond, Isabel's voice echoed, "Nathan, I need you. Right now." His jaw tightened. He left. Emma watched him go. Later might be too late. Late afternoon brought one brief window. Margaret and Isabel were screaming behind closed doors. Nathan had driven out. Staff on break. Now or never. Emma grabbed a screwdriver, heart hammering so hard she could barely breathe. She walked fast toward the guest house. She pushed the door open. The air hit her like a wall. Suffocating. Humid. Thick with the sour smell of old milk, sweat, and neglect. Emma followed the sound of crying. Faint. Desperate. Dying. It led her to a tall wooden wardrobe against the far wall. A padlock hung from the handles. Emma's stomach dropped. A baby, locked inside a dark cabinet, hidden like garbage. She jammed the screwdriver into that lock, twisted with every ounce of strength. The lock snapped. Emma ripped the doors open. A tiny baby, so impossibly thin he looked weightless, lay curled in that dark space, whimpering weakly. Sunken cheeks, soaked onesie, arms trembling from exhaustion. "Oh, sweetheart," Emma whispered, lifting him as gently as she could. "What did they do to you?" The baby made this soft sound against her shoulder, too tired to even cry properly. No more secrets, no more hiding. She was saving this child, even if it cost her everything. But then footsteps, fast, coming straight toward the guest house. Margaret's voice hissed from outside. "Did you give him the bottle? He needs to stay quiet until after the rehearsal." Emma's heart exploded. She slipped out the back door seconds before Margaret entered through the front. She ran across the yard, clutching the baby close beneath her jacket, every step shaking with fear and rage. Tonight, the truth was coming out. Emma reached a hidden corner behind tall hedges. She lifted the baby higher, cradling him properly for the first time. He was so light, too light. His little ribs pressed through his skin like he hadn't been fed in weeks. Rage burned through Emma like wildfire. She pulled out her phone. Should she call police? No. Isabel and Margaret would twist everything. Like, spin stories. Without Nathan or witnesses, they might get away with it. Emma adjusted the blanket around the baby. It had little blue teddy bears printed on it, stained with dried milk and dust. She recognized it instantly, from the Ashford nursery storage. Isabel and Margaret had stolen baby supplies from Nathan's own family to hide their crime. Emma felt physically sick. Margaret stepped out of the guest house, scanning the ground like she'd lost something valuable. "Where is he?" she muttered, voice tight with panic. Emma ducked lower behind the hedge, holding the baby completely still. Margaret glanced around frantically, sweat shining on her temples. "If that child somehow got out, someone's going to hear him. We need to end this problem today. End this problem." Emma felt rage sharpen into something deadly. Emma rushed upstairs to the staff quarters, laid the baby gently on her bed, surrounding him with pillows. His tiny eyelids fluttered. One soft, empty cry. She grabbed her old backup phone from the drawer. Voice recorder worked perfectly. She tucked it deep in her apron pocket. This time, she wasn't relying on instinct. She was catching these monsters in their own words. Emma slipped back downstairs. Isabel came rushing down the grand staircase, phone pressed to her ear, voice slicing like knives. "No, Mom. He's starting to suspect something. If Nathan finds out about the baby before the ceremony, I lose everything. Just make it disappear before tomorrow." Emma stepped back, pretended to adjust a vase. Hit record. Isabel kept walking, completely unaware. "I'm not letting a newborn ruin my future. Mom, if you have to smother him to keep him quiet, then do it." Emma gasped silently, covering her mouth. This woman wasn't just cold. She was murderous. Across the hallway, Margaret emerged carrying a large duffel bag. "Where is he?" Isabel snapped. "I don't know. He was crying earlier and now he's just gone. Someone must have taken him." Pure panic flooded both their voices. Isabel grabbed her mother's arm hard enough to leave marks. "If Nathan finds out there's a baby in this house, the wedding is over. Everything is ruined." Margaret's next words came out like venom. "If the baby dies before anyone sees him, this whole nightmare disappears. Problem solved." Emma's hand tightened around her phone. This was enough. She backed toward the staircase as silently as possible. A baby's life was literally seconds from ending. She had to move. Now, hours crawled by. Nathan returned that evening, still clutching that maternity hospital envelope. Eyes bloodshot, hollow. Emma watched from across the room, waiting for the right moment. At noon the next day, she stepped toward him. "Nathan, I need to show you something." He blinked at her, confused. "Emma, not now. I can't handle anything else. This is important. Please." He hesitated. Something inside him cracked. "All right, show me." Emma led Nathan across the backyard, every step heavy with dread. He followed her to the small guest house. She pushed the door open. He stepped inside and immediately recoiled. The air was suffocating, rancid with the smell of old milk, sweat, and something darker. Nathan covered his nose. "What the hell is that?" Emma walked to the tall wooden cabinet. The padlock hung broken. She opened the doors wide. Inside lay nothing except a thin blanket covered in blue teddy bears, stained with milk and dust. A baby blanket. Nathan stared for several long seconds, brain refusing to process. "Why is there... What I asked this?" Emma stepped closer. "Nathan." Isabel had a baby. All the color drained from his face. "No, she would have told me. She said she never wanted kids. She lied. She lied about everything." Emma picked up that tiny blanket, placed it gently into his shaking hands. Nathan stared at the stained cloth. His knees went weak. "Emma, where's this baby?" "He's upstairs. Safe, but barely." Nathan looked up sharply, raw terror flooding his eyes. "Barely? They kept him locked here, in this cabinet. No sunlight, barely any food. They were planning to get rid of him before the wedding." Nathan staggered backward. A sound escaped him, half sob, half gasp. "My God, Isabel wouldn't..." She couldn't. Emma pulled out her phone. "Because of this." She pressed play. Isabel's voice filled that small, suffocating room. "If he finds out about the baby before the wedding, I lose everything. Just keep him quiet. I don't care how." Margaret's whisper followed. "If the baby dies before anyone sees him, it all disappears." Nathan's hand shot to his mouth. He stumbled forward, bracing against the wall. That's them. That's really them saying that. Emma tapped the phone again. I'm not letting a newborn ruin my future. Mom, do whatever you have to do. I don't care. Nathan squeezed his eyes shut. The only sound was his quiet, broken sob. When he finally lifted his head, his face was pale but hardened with clarity Emma had never seen. Take me to him. Take me to the baby. Now. Emma led him back to the mansion. Frantic footsteps echoed through marble hallways. Margaret's anxious voice drifted from upstairs. He's gone. Isabel, find him. They slipped past unnoticed. Emma guided him to the staff room where the baby lay wrapped in a clean towel. Nathan approached slowly, afraid his touch might break the child. The baby lay still, tiny chest rising weakly, skin way too pale, little hands trembling. Oh God, he's so thin. His fingers shook as he reached out, barely brushing the baby's cheek. The infant blinked weakly, too exhausted to even cry. Nathan turned to Emma, tears streaming down his face. They did this to him? Isabel and her mother. They were going to let him die. Emma nodded. They didn't just hide him. They starved him. They planned to make him disappear like he never existed. Nathan closed his eyes, heart visibly breaking. But then something shifted. He straightened, posture stiffened, jaw locked tight, a fire lit behind his eyes. No more. No one hurts this child again. Not while I'm alive. Emma exhaled shakily. Nathan wasn't just angry anymore. He was ready for war. She placed the recording device in his hand. You'll need this. He looked at her with devastating gratitude. You saved him. You saved my son. A scream echoed from downstairs. Isabel's voice. He's gone. Mom, where is he? Then Margaret panicked. Shut up. If Nathan finds out before the wedding, we're finished. Nathan's face turned to stone. Let's finish it then. They carried the baby downstairs, wrapped tightly. The mansion was packed with wedding decorators, florists, caterers. Hundreds of eyes expecting a fairy tale. Nathan walked straight into the massive ballroom where the rehearsal was being set up. His presence alone silenced the entire room. Isabel froze mid-step, practiced smile flickering to panic. Nathan, honey, what's wrong? Nathan didn't even look at her. Everyone, I need your attention. Right now. Conversations stopped dead. Phones lowered. Every head turned. Margaret stood beside Isabel, eyes darting, already calculating escape routes. Nathan reached into his jacket, pulled out the maternity envelope, then held up the recording device. Isabel's face went completely white. Nathan, wait. He pressed play. Isabel's voice filled that enormous ballroom. I'm not letting a newborn ruin my future. Margaret's whisper followed. If the baby dies, it disappears. Problem solved. Gasps ripped through the crowd. Someone screamed. Phones started recording. Isabel staggered backward like the words had physically struck her. Nathan finally looked at her, eyes darker and colder than she'd ever seen. You hid our child. You starved him. You locked him in a cabinet like garbage. And you planned to kill him so you could marry me and take my money. Isabel's mask shattered. No, Nathan, listen. That's edited. Someone faked that. Mom, say something. Margaret was frozen solid, pale as death, world collapsing in front of 200 witnesses. Nathan stepped forward, voice dropping to something deadly quiet. There will be no wedding. There will be no future with you. There will only be consequences. Isabel broke, collapsed to the marble floor, sobbing. Not from guilt, from terror of losing everything she'd schemed for. Security moved in fast. Guests whispered in disgust and horror. The fantasy she'd built fell apart in seconds. Then Emma stepped forward, holding the baby. The entire room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Nathan walked to her, gently, so gently, took the child into his arms. He's safe now. Then he looked at Emma, eyes filled with something that looked like love. And so are we. The ballroom stayed silent. Nathan stood in the center holding the baby like he was the most precious thing in the universe. He turned toward the crowd. This woman, he said, gesturing to Emma, is the reason this child is alive. She acted when none of us noticed. She protected him when his own mother wouldn't. People began to applaud. Not politely, with real respect, real admiration. Emma is no longer just a staff member in this house. As of today, she's the head of household operations, my estate manager, and she will have full authority regarding the care of this child. The room erupted in applause. Emma felt tears pressing behind her eyes. She wasn't used to being seen. Not like this. Nathan's voice softened. You're the hero of this house, Emma. And in that moment, with a rescued baby sleeping peacefully between them, two people who'd been invisible to the world finally saw each other clearly. Not as Billionaire and Maid, but as partners in the most important fight of their lives. The fight to protect an innocent child from the people who were supposed to love him most. If the story moved you, if it made you believe that one person with courage can change everything, then smash that like button and subscribe right now. Drop a comment. What would you have done in Emma's position? Would you have risked everything to save that baby? Because the truth is, evil wins when good people do nothing. Emma refused to do nothing, and that made all the difference. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.